pretty much. Like this year, I haven't really had a primary residence, but I guess if you had to pick one, pretty much that's what it's been this year. Mm. Say that one more time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had even said it in mentioned to you, but you were going through like the same weekend that you did your thing is when she did. She did it that Saturday, I think, and you did it that Sunday. Mm-hmm. But and even though I wanted to, because that's your lane, but she had asked me specifically, so I was waiting. But then everybody started texting Maya talking about this. Does Kofi know about that on Thursday? And I was like, I know about it. I was like, I didn't know everybody else knew about it. And then apparently she told everybody on the prayer line. Long story short, he was born. He supposedly one of those babies that wasn't supposed to survive at all, and made it to 17. Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah. So I'll give you more information though. Yeah. Now that I know that she's letting people. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Amen. Shalom, everybody. Shalom, welcome. Thank you for being on with us this rising. May the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it's in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Amen. How's everybody doing? Welcome to you. Blessings to you. We appreciate you so very much. Thanks for being on with us. As always, this is Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And we thank you guys for being part of what we're doing today and coming on with us. If it's your first time, one time of many, etc., we're appreciative and we're thankful to have you on with us. Hopefully, everybody should be able to see us fine on all the platforms. And then we thank you, even if you're listening to this not live, but we'll listen to this later on. We're thankful and we're grateful to be able to talk to you today. Once again, we give all praise and honor to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we're thankful to everybody who supports her business. Her business, as always, is to make sure that the health of the diaspora is her business and her concern. So we're thankful and grateful to you guys, and we appreciate you all. And we love the mindset, the heart, and everything that everybody has. I will be doing a tiny bit of eating during this, so I do apologize for that. But it won't be too much to where it's distracting, I promise. And thank you guys for being on once again. Today, we're going to talk about, and to the moderators, ministerial staff, Lottie Dottie, and everybody, we appreciate y'all. Today, we're going to talk about the Dred Scott decision. And so I already know we're going to have issues because of what it is, but it is what it is. Thank you, moderators, in advance, because I know I'm going to be leaning on y'all heavily to deal with some of these things that are going to come up. But it is what it is. We got to talk about it, because when you realize what it is, it helps you to realize that you've never really been considered to be a citizen anyways. So you need to figure out how to come out of this system. Right. So we want to talk about that in that manner today. So how's everybody doing? I see you, Minister Sonia. Big brother Vincent in there, Sister Valisa, Sister Cynthia, Mrs. Reed, shalom to you. How you doing? Shalom. Anubis. Sorry. Have a little issue scrolling. There we go. Sir Stephen, great to see you again. My friend DJS Kid, how you doing? CC Woodson, thanks for being there. Sister Sharon, how you doing? Sister Sharon, how you doing? Sister Beverly. Eugene, hey, how you doing? Or Gene from Detroit, hey, how you doing? Yeah, we still up here. We probably gonna roll out today though. Let's see, Anthony, Sister Beverly also had says, well, no, nothing wrong with saying hello again. Sister Helen, Deanna, thanks for being part of the community. You said the 14th Amendment is unconstitutional. Yes, this is what we need. Yeah, well, even 14th Amendment, 13th Amendment, and the Dred Scott decision to show us even before those things. Well, not before, but around. No, actually, yeah, before those things even came into being, right? That we need to know about these things. So we praise y'all for you. How you doing, Realist? Thanks for being on with us. Thanks for being part of the community today. Nay, how you doing, Sister Nay? Hello to everybody. Sister Shima, everybody who's watching us later on. Let's see, Denise, everybody who's watching this live, watching this on YouTube, TikTok. You maybe get the link later from Facebook, whatever the case might be. We're thankful and grateful to each and every one of you. How you doing? Sister Cassandra, hello and congratulations to you. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. I know you've been posting it publicly, but congratulations to you. And you must be very happy in life right now. I was like, I ain't seen my sister in a minute. so congratulations to you and everything that's going on with you and the fam. And we're thankful and grateful to each and every person. How you doing, King Atheist? All righty. So we want to talk about this Dred Scott decision and everything we talk about. People want to talk about citizenship. We keep talking about you need to break from citizenship, even if you don't agree with what our spiritual belief is, if you want to call it that, being followers of the way, or what our canonical viewpoint is. We have to realize that you got to break away from a system that never see. A lot of us think they stopped considering you a citizen. They never considered you to be a citizen. So when we say, become separate from the system, a lot of people are like, but all we've known is being a citizen. No, like you never really were a citizen in the first place, right? Somebody taught you in school something and tried to include you in something that's not true about yourself and about your people, right? It's not true about, matter of fact, not just black folk. It's not true about what you want to call white folk and all that stuff too, because they ain't really, they're not really citizens the way, or if they are citizens, they're not the way they think they are. But when we talk about Dred Scott, we're talking obviously about a particular people having to deal with a particular color, and even really, it goes past color. It goes from you come from a particular place. Right? Like, so regardless of what you feel about my canonical viewpoint, my spiritual beliefs, or whatever, like we should have some kind of common ground that makes you realize that you might be stuck in a system that's there to continue to make sure that you lack freedom, right? We talk about freedom of, you said we can literally acquire a passport, et cetera, et cetera. Well, yeah, you can acquire a passport that says that you're a non-citizen national instead of a citizen of the United States corporation. Right? So even when you get your passport done and you sign that DS11 form, a matter of fact, for those who are taking Sovereignty 1 this week, that's what we're going to be working on, is DS11 forms, right? So then we're not even going to have our class this week for those who take class with us at SOC University for Sovereignty 1. We're literally going to be doing a class this whole week of just, hey, set up one-on-one appointments and let's make sure you can fill out your DS11. Hey, how you doing, Sister Kendra? Right, so yeah, you said your passport says USA. Yeah, well, even if your passport says USA, it depends on how you set up your DS11 form. If you filled out your DS11 form and said that you come from citizens, then you're probably a US citizen. If you set up your DS11 form and said you don't come from citizens, then it means that you're a non-citizen national, which means that when you get pulled over, you could even show them that non-citizen national passport and they would have a do not detain form. So as long as you haven't given bodily harm to anybody, they cannot detain you. Right? So we're talking about a different thing. You said you can also be on your own secured party creditor and discharge all your debt. Yeah, but why not be a non-citizen national? If you're non-citizen national, you don't have to worry about debt because you're no longer a slave. Somebody who's a slave is in debt. Somebody who's in debt is a slave. Matter of fact, they have a new term that they've been using for 10, 20 years now, wage slave or something like that, where basically people slave out to wages. They're trying to be indentured servants, but the reality is that you have to show up and you have to do what somebody tells you, because all your income and all of your life is based upon somebody who tells you better do this, that, etc., or I won't pay you. Right? So part of sovereignty too, and talking about being free, is not just saying on paper be free, but part of sovereignty is, hey, where's your business? Where's your food? Where's your land? Where's your provision? Right? Do you have to get everything through the government? Can you do anything private? Does everything have to be public? Right? Thank you for the love. Is a son of, I can't see the whole name, Son of Thunder or something along those lines, but thank you for the love. Appreciate it. Right? So you hear what I'm saying? Like, we have a lot of people. If you want more information in the class, you can just get in contact with us. You can DM us. You can go to the TikTok page, click on the link tree if you're, and be able to text us or email us, and we'll get back to you. If you're on YouTube, you can look at the description box. But a lot of us have a weird philosophy and a weird thought process on these things. You said it was nullified by the 13th and 14th Amendments. No, well, not for people in the Dred Scott decision. Like, question for you, like, how many people see, we have a saying for people that have our belief system. We say, read your Bible, it'll bless you. How about this? Read your Constitution. It might inform you, right? It'll bless you as well. When we're talking about these things of being constitutional, we're talking about the Constitution. In the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution, right, when they were originally written in their original form, what is when it was originally written, what did it say about people who were of color? Right? Like, let's just start there, because we do this thing where it's like, oh yeah, the Constitution is for everybody, but the Constitution is not for everybody. The Constitution is not for everybody, at least not in the beginning. No, it wasn't. Right? How many people could vote when the Constitution first popped up, or when George Washington first popped up as either the 9th president or 15th president? How many people could vote? Who could vote? Was this for everybody? Could women vote? You see what I'm saying? Like, we had this weird context and concept of the Constitution. And here's something else that they don't teach you about law, besides the fact, and how you doing, Brother Alton? Besides the fact that law doesn't give rights, law protects rights. You said Constitution should even be a reference for you if you were a non-citizen. Nothing applies to you. No. A non-citizen national, no. A non-citizen, that's not how it works at all. A non-citizen national is protected by all 50 states. A citizen of the United States is actually enslaved by all 50 states, or really not 50 states, by the federal government. Right? The United States is a corporation. 28 USC 3002-15A. Right? 28 USC 3002-15A is an apple. 28 USC 3002-15A. Right? So you don't know how the Constitution works, because you're going off of something else. That's fallacy, though. Right? Well, we're trying to get into the Dred Scott decision, but we're trying to show you that before we get into it, and everybody gets so stuck on the fact we're going to talk about African people, that they're missing that they themselves have been in bondage. And we always have to do this for every live to start, because people come on, oh no, there you go, blah, blah, this and that, and it doesn't, no, like, you don't know, you've never read the Constitution. For example, the Constitution never uses the word democracy, because you don't live in a democracy. You're coming from this from a democratic point of view, thinking that we're talking about democracy. Yeah, landowners, by the way. I'm sorry, I see you right. Is it right tool, Randy? Sorry. Yeah, you were right about that. Sorry, I missed your comment. Right, but people are coming to this thinking, and thank you for the love. People are coming to this with a democratic perspective. We're in a democracy. Nowhere in your Constitution does it use that word. Exactly. Most people think they're constitutional or talk about the Constitution, and they've never read it, or they don't even know how law works. Because once again, as we always say, law does not give rights. Law protects rights. You go into a courtroom setting or whatever. You said democracy was established in 1871. I mean, once again, if it's established, then you got to figure out where it is. A democracy, now you can say technically you're in a democracy, as far as demo means a little bit, a few people, or a village, and Cressy means govern. So Cressy and demo put together is talking about a few people who live together, who give you a little bit, govern you with that. That's what a democracy actually is. But we know that in essence, but really you're in a republic. Even if you want to call it a democratic republic or a Republican oligarchy, you're in a republic, right? You pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, right? That's the corporation now, and to the republic. What is a republic? Is a republic a democracy, or is it a kingdom? You said law doesn't care about opinions. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Yeah, you're very much so right. But law protects rights. So if you want your rights to be protected, stop talking about stuff ignorant of the law. You said it's useless knowledge. Okay, useless to you because you don't want to be private citizen. You want to be public. You don't want to be sovereign. You want to be a citizen. So if it's useless to you, I would go somewhere else to where you could find something useful to stay enslaved. For those that want to be free, the law can protect your right. And you got to know all the law and stop trying to figure out which ones you want to do. It's like, you know what, as much as some of y'all might not believe in the Bible and stuff, y'all doing the same thing, that Old Testament versus New Testament. I don't like to hold laws, and I don't want to do what all the Bible says. I don't want to even be held accountable for certain things, therefore, that the Bible says. Therefore, I'm going to say that's old and this is new. You're doing the same thing. I don't want to address law, so I'll look for things that are legal, but not everything that is legal is lawful, and not everything that's unlawful is illegal. You said into the democracy for which it stands. I mean, if that's what you want to put in there, but then that's not what it says, right? You said, do you have to give up your citizenship to U.S. in order to not be under this curse? You just have to say that you're not under the curse. Now, you should make sure your life. See, a lot of people, once again, we're only focused on. This is why when it comes to sovereignty, I can't just talk about sovereignty as a whole and just say, yeah, just do this, blah, 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 because you can't trust everybody. And I'm not saying you personally, but there's a lot of people we can't trust with certain information. There's a lot of people, they're just looking for some paperwork. Oh, can I do this? Can I do that? Sovereignty is a lifestyle, right? Like my wife and I tell people this all the time. I don't make that much money, but we travel and get to do things that a lot of people wish they can do. You know why? Because we live sovereign. We can take care of ourselves. We're private citizens. We don't ask for benefits or privileges. My child, doesn't have to go to a school system. Like, there's a lot of things we've decided to do that says that, hey, we made a demarcation. So if somebody comes looking for taxes or this and that or whatever, we say, well, no, like, we don't involve ourselves in any of those things. We're not part of a fake corporation. We have that on paper, but also we live it in our lives. If you were to go get the paperwork done, but still keep dealing with benefits and privileges and everything. Now, not to say, like, for example, there's certain things you can get, like if you're in the Army and you get discharged and then you're owed money or whatever. Yeah, you know what? That was because of your labor. If you're talking about SSI, because even when we say you don't pay taxes, the only thing they can take out of your stuff is SSI, but they can only take SSI out if your company is attached to that stuff anyway. So the company I'm part of is not attached, so I don't concern myself with that. But the only thing they can worry about, so SSI is not a benefit or privilege. Like SSI is, hey, you deserve this, you work for this, so you get to have this, right? So people have this confusion. Once again, we're misrepresenting law. We think that, oh, okay, because I've got SSI, oh, okay, because I've received this from the thing, oh, I received pension. No, that's because of your labor. If it's because of your labor, then you're allowed to have it. You said, but if you commit a crime within the state, you go to jail. If you commit a crime that's worthy of you go to jail, yeah, you deserve to. Sovereigns are supposed to be held to the law higher than anybody else. Like this, that's the way this works. Like, sovereigns should be people that follow the law greater than everybody else. Even if you believe, by the way, any guru will tell you that you don't talk about sovereignty, you got to talk about spirituality, right? Spirituality is important in sovereignty too, but quiet is kept. Everybody want to be sovereign, but nobody want to believe in a higher power. Like, you better make sure you get your life together in that, because that's what these things are talking about. When you go to court and you do an affidavit breaks down to basically being a promise before the Most High. Don't talk about you want to give an affidavit and you're not willing to be held accountable by the Most High. You talking a different language. I definitely don't remember anybody by that name. I don't think you had the right person. Right, but you got to be in a position. You got to recognize, like there's a whole mindset behind this, and that's what we're talking about. Even the citizenship thing. People talking about, oh, a citizen, and being this. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. So going back to what I was trying to say earlier, when the Constitution is originally written, if you were, watch this, if you were a person of color when the Constitution was written, did you have rights? Like, before we break that down and we try to go into all this, it's like lifestyle. See, they're talking lifestyle. You're talking about a piece of paper. They're talking about land. They're talking about food. They're talking about water. They're talking about education, right? They're talking about marriage, right? These are things that you didn't have a right to. And a lot of people still don't have a right to. Watch this. If you go and you get married to the state, by the state, do you know that you're basically saying that I now authorize the state to be in the place of the Most High over my union? We weren't taught that, so we just do it. But that's what you did. You know, you can write out your own marriage contract, and because it's a contract, it'll be there. You said which constitution, whichever constitution you want to go to, did the Constitution say that you are a citizen? I'm sorry, like when they talked about citizens in the Constitution, when they talked about citizens, well, they didn't use the term citizen as much, but when they talked about citizens, so to speak, in the Declaration of Independence, did they include black people? And even if that was something where people want to say it's up for debate, the Dred Scott decision made that very clear as far as what they thought about you, because that's the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is supposed to be the people who are, they don't care about any of this stuff, supposedly. They're not supposed to care about color, all that. Matter of fact, they did some stuff as far as, if you know about the story of Armistead and all that, you'll know that they made a decision, and John Quincy Adams went there and he obeyed the law and he pushed the law. You said, keep pushing the narrative, I'll never be set free. I'm free. Do you got to go to work today? You got to go to your job? Because I don't do that no more. I'm free. You still pay taxes? I don't got to do that no more. I'm free. Right? Are you frustrated because I'm mentioning color? If you can't handle me mentioning color, then that means you need to free your mind to that. Because just because I respect the man's color doesn't mean that that man's heart gets to, is pure. Right? You have to do those things. Right? You got to check in with master. That's not my master no more. I used to check in with him too. I know how that works. I was raised in that. Right? You don't have to pay taxes. You pay taxes for benefits and privileges. That's law. You see what I'm saying? That's law. That is lawful. You pay taxes for what? For benefits and privileges. If I'm not dealing in benefits and privileges, why would I do that? You pay school taxes because you're supposed to say, hey, you know what? My child goes to school. My child doesn't go to school or never has gone. Why would I do that? Now, we still have to be lawful. So there's certain steps that you should take lawfully and legally to ensure that you're protected. And that don't just say, oh, I'm going to stop paying taxes. Like, make sure that you have your stuff together, because somebody's going to come behind. They're going to check you out. They're going to hold you accountable. People don't like being held accountable, but they're going to hold you accountable for what. Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. I haven't seen that one before. Right. But they're going to hold you accountable. They're going to hold you accountable for what it is that you say. So if you say, I'm sovereign, they're going to say, show me. And then you got to be like Missouri. You got to show me. So that, like, that's real talk. See, a lot of us only talk, so we're not aware how to get out of those things. But real talk is that, yeah, you gotta prove. That's why when you get that DS-11 form and stuff, that's why we have to show people how to do it. You got to come out of there with when you're asking for your passport and everything, you have to come out of that making sure on paper it's shown that you don't agree that anybody in your family has ever been part of the United States of America as far as a citizen, nor has even your spouse or ex-spouse. You have to make sure that you put that on there, because they're going to look for that. That's the main thing. They used to have it on there. Those of you who did passports way back in the day, you used to be able to fill out a passport. On the top, it would say, are you a U.S. citizen? Are you a non-citizen national? Are you this? Are you that? And there are non-citizen nationals that work in the U.S. all the time, right? Like there are Englishmen, right? Canadians, Mexicans, etc. People that get green cards. They're non-citizen nationals. If they do their paperwork correct, they don't have to pay taxes. But if you do your paperwork correct, you don't have to pay taxes. See, it wasn't until the 14th Amendment that somebody think of it. It wasn't until the 14th Amendment where they came to you and they said, because you're born from somewhere, that means you belong to that somewhere, right? Before then, it was stupid to think that it mattered where you were from. It always mattered who you were from. How you doing, Sister Carrie? And how you doing, Sister Barbara? If I didn't say so already, I think I did, right? Like, think about that. It's new to us, right? Or maybe not new to us, because that's all we've known, because that's all we've been taught, that's all we research. But it's new. If you look at like just a couple hundred years ago, people would have been like, oh, not even a couple hundred years ago, 140-ish years ago, somewhere in there, people would have been like, oh, who's your parents? Not where are your parents from necessarily, because even if I'm born in, so this is the way, like, let me use American jargon more. So if I'm born in Georgia, right? Just because I'm born in Georgia, it doesn't make me Georgian. Why? Because if my parents were North Carolinian, then I'd be, matter of fact, I don't even, yeah, I was North and South then. So if my parents were North Carolinian, then I was North Carolinian because my parents were North Carolinian. See, here goes somebody again, somebody's laughing. That's the truth. Until the 14th Amendment, nobody was like, oh, since you're born in the United States of America, you must be American. Matter of fact, look up the original definition of an American in Black's Law Dictionary, and what will you find? That's a reference point that you can still use in court today, right? Look it up, Google it right now. What is the definition of an American? If you look up American in Black's Law Dictionary, you got to look for two different definitions. The first and earliest definition is that an American is a copper-colored person indigenous to the Americas, indigenous to North and South America. That was a Eurocentric. That's a Eurocentric definition for those of us who have native background. You said they didn't even clarify what a citizen was until the 14th. No, they did. They did. Okay, watch this. This is the Dred Scott case. You said so they didn't clarify it until when? Hold on. Let me double check. Oh, somebody already muted. Okay. Well, you said they didn't clarify it until the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment, I believe, I could be off, but it's somewhere around 1868, right? So when did the Dred Scott decision take place? When did the Dred Scott decision take place? Matter of fact, let me Google it just to make sure, because I could be wrong. I'm not going to act like I know every single thing. When did it take place? Oh, I thought so. It took place before Lincoln, right? Right during the time of the 15th president, who was trying to push to make sure that people got themselves together, who were fighting against freed states and slave states. So that would have been 1857. That would have been 11 years at least before the 14th Amendment. Okay, so the Dred Scott decision told us before the 14th Amendment. It says it's the case in which the United States Supreme Court held that descendants of Africans who were imported into this country and sold as slaves were not included nor intended to be included under the word citizens in the Constitution, whether emancipated or not, and remained without rights or privileges except such as those which the government might grant them. You say clarification in the Constitution. Once again, we got a problem though, because the Supreme Court is supposed to verify the Constitution. Do I know anything about American Indians? Well, I'm Salagi, or some of you will call it Cherokee. My cousin says a Choctaw, and I got, my wife is Seminole. She's also Blackfoot, and I somewhat Wampanoag. Had was able to go and visit some of the Khalifa people as well as some of the. I'm sorry, who's over in Sedona? I'm having a problem with. Something's happening. I'm sorry, but anyways, yeah, I'm familiar with those who are the original Americans according to law. Right. It wasn't until 1776 when somebody threw tea over and took the scalps or the things that they scalped off people and wore them, and then said that those people that they scalped, they are now the Americans. Yeah, I'm very aware of that. Right, and we should be. But once again, we're talking about this. You said, how do you fight the largest military in the world, though? First things first, you make sure you're a private citizen. Second thing, you make sure that you have private land. And when it's private land, make it private. Like, you're trying to fight. We're not going to fight military might with military might at first, but you can fight them with land, and you can fight them with actual physical things. You can fight them by not giving them your money. You can fight them by making sure that you decentralize your banking in your communities. That's a fight that we can start at least first. And we've learned from other people, but what we should learn is from what other people didn't do. See, we've had Garvey, we've had Wilmington, we've had Tulsa, we've had Philly, we've had Rosewoods, we've had the Nation of Islam, we've had Malcolm, we've had Martin, we've had, even if some people feel some kind of way about them, NAACP, we've had people in Congress. There were more black people in Congress in the late 1800s than there are today, right? But first things first is we never came together. See, our fight we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. First things first, why do we keep separating? Like, people see Martin, he was a sellout, blah, blah, blah. Go read what Martin was saying. Right? Like, for example, we talked about this earlier, but allow me to just bring some of this stuff back, right? Because we're so busy separating that we can't even get the messages that somebody like Martin had for us, right? So watch this. Here's some stuff from Martin Luther King Jr. And this is him talking about how all of us need to get together. But we're sitting up there, we'll tell him this. Victimhood mentality, sure, but you can't be a victim without having a victor. Victors have to create victims. So very well said to continue and say the same dribble that everybody else seems to say. But if you'd like to have actual conversation, let's have actual conversation. And let's feel safe to say it rather than think we have to attack each other and use ad hominem only, right? But let's go ahead and look at this, right? Because this is something they don't talk about what Martin said, right? They don't talk about what Martin said in this. Martin said, a nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. Go ahead, take a screenshot, read it for yourself, right? I'll say it one more time for those that are on YouTube. How you doing, TJ? What did Martin say again? Right? Martin said a nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. And when you say, what about the 15th Amendment? I could care less about the 15th Amendment because everybody's allowed to vote. And yet you still up here seeing us have to talk about people that say, I don't see color. So if voting helps you to not see color still, if voting makes sure that both white and black people, whether in the trailer park or in the hood, the ghettos, whatever, that they still being messed over. If voting does that, if voting means that people who never come to see about me just bring me up every once in a while to say why they're going to vote for me or why I should vote for them, then I'm not worried about voting either way. So the 15th Amendment, once again, is for people who really are like, watch this. What is a poll? A poll is not anything more than an opinion. Politics, that's all it is. And so you're telling me to vote for something, but then you also have something called what? You have something called what? You have something that controls the vote. What is that called? The Electoral College. You said if you want no tax dollars, you should have served in the military. Then you have deep benefits. I served in the military. And right, and now if that's your whole thing of like saying I should be in that, thank me for my service, but that's not what you came here to do. You came here to be against it, right? Like it's a weird thing. See what I'm saying? Like, you know, I did serve this country, your country, and guess what? Police officers still pulled me over and still treated me like garbage. KKK still chased me. They didn't say thank you for your service. They didn't care about that. But once again, a nation, see what I'm saying? This is Martin Luther King Jr. A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. People aren't worried about doing things for each other. Right? People aren't worried about helping each other out. They're worried about saying you're a victim. You just got a victim mentality. But victors make victims. And victors don't want to do anything to help out. You know why? Let's look at something else Martin Luther King Jr. said. Because we only want to look at the nice stuff to make people feel okay. Right? But Martin Luther King Jr. told us what? The evils of capitalism are as real as the evils of militarism and racism. Right? So capitalism, militarism, and racism are all just as evil. That's what Martin Luther King Jr. said. I didn't write it. I didn't speak it. That's what you say. You say you claim he your boy. All right. Well, this is what your boy said. You might want to holler at your boy, not me. Right? He said the evils of capitalism are as real as the evils of militarism and racism. The problems of racial injustice and economic injustice cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican, and I got sense enough to know it. Matter of fact, I'm not an American by your American values, and I got sense enough to know it. Nice try, though. I could care less. Nice try. Like, I'm not here to worry about your Republican and Democratic sensibilities. You came to the wrong place for that. Go look for somebody else that cares about who you vote for, who cares about if it's Trump, who cares about if it's Biden, who cares about if it's Clinton, who cares about if it's Bush, who cares about if it's Bush, who cares about if it's Obama, who cares about if it's Carter, who cares about if it's JFK, who cares about whoever it is, because none of them have solved this issue that you're here telling me that I'm a victim about. But you dang sure are fighting like you're in charge. You ain't in charge of nothing, including me. Who are the people who are the real power? The president isn't in charge of nothing. There's somebody that tells the president what to do. You should focus on them and ask them why they keep sowing all this discord amongst each other that has you trying to fight me when you have the same problems that I do. You came to the wrong place if you thought that I was going to cower because you would dare talk about Democrat or Republican. That's low on the totem pole. Right? I have more authority than the president does. The president don't matter to me. He has to work for the public. The president is tied. The president, no matter Republican, Democrat, they can't do much. You know why the president can't do much? Because he's supposed to support and defend the Constitution of the United States Corporation against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. That means even if you vote for him, if he says that, hey, if there's something that you're doing that's going to mess up what private corporations want the United States Corporation to do, then guess what? They will come for you too because you were an enemy. He can't even hold his promise to you because he ain't in charge of nothing. Why do you think you're in charge? Because you vote for somebody that ain't even in charge of nothing. It's because you're pushing yourself off of stuff that don't matter. That stuff don't matter. And yeah, and even military vets, for real, don't forget that long ago. That's a real thing. We didn't get that many. There was a time when we vets had to start standing up because they weren't giving us vets what we deserved either. That's why I stopped going to the VA, because the VA wasn't giving me anything I needed anyways. There was one person that ever really helped me in the VA. To be seen by a doctor at the VA is annoying. I'd rather pay out of pocket than get free health care. That's how bad it is. If I do go to the doctor, because my wife's a herbalist, so I'm straight on a lot of this stuff anyway. But even if I wanted to go, I'd rather pay out of pocket every time. Just give me whatever the full price is, put it on. Because they don't take care of their own. By the way, you don't believe me? Go to Denver right now. See how many of those homeless. Denver's terrible with homelessness. See how many of those people over in Denver right now. As soon as you get off the airport, at the airport and get outside, start looking around. See how many of them are vets. This country cares about them so much. Go to Washington D.C. and walk around the Verizon Center and walk around, the MLK Library and walk around all these different places. Go to the National Mall. See how many of those homeless people out there are vets that people are claiming the country cares about so much. I know because I'm out there feeding those vets. As a former military member myself, as a vet, go down to Miami and see how many vets you run into down there. Go to Houston, go to H-Town, go to the D, Detroit, go to Chicago, Chi-Town, go to these places. Heck, go to Augusta in Maine. All right, go to I'm sorry, it's not Augusta in Maine. Whatever that is up there, something close to that. But go up there. Go to Augustus in Georgia. Go to ATL. First time I went to the ATL, my wife and I were going out, and the first thing I thought to myself, wherever we were, I can't remember even what region it was, when we were down there, the first thing I said to myself was, wow, a lot of homeless people. And then I know the signs of the veterans, so I was like, wow, a lot of veterans. Isn't it crazy? I used to be a homeless veteran myself, by the way. So I know it even by looking. Like, there's people I can look at and be like, I can tell by the way he folds that thing. I can tell by the way he carries his backpack. I can tell by the way she does this or that. And we shouldn't have to pay that, by the way. Prescott, I see what you said. But his government doesn't care about us. That's the problem. You're acting like this government is for you. And when do we get it through our head that they don't? But once again, let's keep reading through MLK. I don't want to keep. Let's get back to Dred Scott. I apologize. let's keep going. What else did MLK tell us? Right. This is the American dream. July 4th, 1965. He spoke this on Independence Day. All right. What did he say on Independence Day? He said the price that America must pay for the oppression of the Negro and other minority groups is the price of its own destruction. See, you talking about Republican and Democrat. MLK got passed that a long time ago. What did he say again? He said the price, this is after, by the way. When was the March on Washington? March on Washington was 1963. This is 2 years after the March on Washington. So he said we did the March on Washington, and yeah, they did put money into our coffers a little bit for what we did, and the big six got paid off a little bit, and we put it into our community stuff. But he said, now that I see what happened, right? Because remember, anybody know when Martin Luther King Jr. died? Anybody remember how old he was? See, they just say random stuff about Martin without checking out his history. Martin Luther King Jr., when he died, he was only 39 years old. I'm 40 right now, and I'm still young. That means that he really was learning on the job. And so he's learning, and he's saying, oh, man, you know what? The price that America must pay for the continued oppression of the Negro and other minority groups is the price of its own destruction. If they do this to one of us, they're going to end up doing to all of us. But you take it as black, white, da-da-da-da. What is something else Martin Luther King Jr. said? He said, white Americans must recognize that justice for black people cannot be achieved without radical changes in the structure of society. You don't want no change. But MLK said, hey, see, nowadays, y'all who lift up MLK would say, stop being a victim to MLK. No sound? Uh-oh. I'm sorry, Jeremy. Can y'all hear me? Jeremy said there's no sound. Can y'all hear me on YouTube? Let me know if you can hear me or can't hear me. I'm sorry. Might have had a signal issue at the time and I didn't know. Right? That's what MLK said. What else so radical changes are necessary. What else did MLK say? MLK said whites, it must frankly be said. This is him. He said whites, it must frankly be said, are not putting any similar mass effort to reevaluate. I'm sorry, to re-educate themselves. Okay, I'm having a weird thing going on my screen. Okay, to re-educate themselves on uh-oh, I can't see. Okay, re-educate themselves. I think that says out. Re-educate themselves out of their racial ignorance. It is an aspect of their sense of superiority that white people of America believe that they have so little to learn. The reality of substantial investment to assist Negroes in the 20th century, adjusting to Negro neighbors, and genuine school integration is still a nightmare for all too many white Americans. These are the deepest causes for contemporary abrasions between the races. Loose and easy language about equality, resonant resolutions about brotherhood fall pleasantly on the ear, but for the Negro, there is a credibility gap he cannot overlook. He remembers that with each modest advance, the white population promptly raises the argument that the Negro has come far enough. Each step forward accents one ever-present tendency tendency to backlash. Each step forward, there's a tendency for backlash. Why? Because many people keep saying you've come far enough. Why are you complaining? That happened. They'll be like, that happened 600 years ago. That happened 400 years ago. That happened. Yeah. Why are you still complaining? You're a victim. That's that. Martin Luther King Jr. He told you. That's what y'all gonna say. Well, let's keep on going. Let's keep on going because I know people don't want to hear this. We're gonna get back to Dred Scott, but people don't want to hear this. But see, you say that's your boy. That's what your boy told you were going to do, and you're doing the same thing he told you, right? He really loved you because somebody really loves you will tell you the truth about yourself. Right? You hear me? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Right. So we know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. That's Martin Luther King Jr. That sounds like fighting words. If I came to you and I said, yo, I'm tired of asking you for something, I'm going to demand it now. Does that mean I'm just going to keep going through the same motion? That means that I should be ready to fight. What did it say? We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Okay. What else did he say? See? We ain't got time. See, people ain't got time for this now when he's telling you some real stuff. It's easy when it makes you just feel great. But I say, again, this is 1967, the year before he died. Again, we have deluded ourselves into believing the myth that capitalism grew and prospered out of the Protestant Protestant ethic of hard work and sacrifices. Capitalism was built on the exploitation of black slaves and continues to thrive on the exploitation of the poor, both black and white, and abroad. So I haven't dealt with the comments, but I already know I'm gonna see something in the comment section. Why are you doing this? Get over it. Victim mentality. You're reverse racist. Da, da, da. Right? But he said clearly here, he said that there's a myth that it was just Protestant, work ethic. Just work hard and lace up your boots, and everything's gonna work out for you. And the reality is, what capitalism was built upon the exploitation of black slaves, because people think that chattel slavery had no capitalism, or that capitalism has no chattel slavery. They go hand in hand. The fight of the Civil War was, is chattel slavery going to be the main thing and capitalism going to take a back seat, or is capitalism going to be the main thing and chattel slavery take a back seat? Either way, they're in the same vehicle. But it says, but Martin Luther King Jr. said capitalism was built on the exploitation of black slaves. Now watch this though. See, if you don't get it for what happened here, you won't get it to what's happening over now in this time period. It was built on the exploitation of black slaves, right? And it continues to thrive on the exploitation of the poor, who are what? Both black and white, both here and abroad. This is not even a domestic situation only. This is happening in other countries as well. But you're so stuck on your Republican Democrat values in the fight that you're not, and fighting each other, that you don't realize that the fight is bigger than this. See, now we can go back to talking about the citizenship that everybody's talking about but doesn't really comprehend. Now let's go back and talk about Dred Scott. this decision that made it a point to tell you straight up that this is not what you think it is. You keep talking about citizenship, and citizenship is making all of us slaves. Those who want to come out can come out. How you doing, Shalom Prince, by the way? Thank you, Shark Bait. Appreciate you. How you doing, Sister Marion? Hopefully you got back safe and everything. You can hear me over there. Thank you for those who said you can hear us. You said, what modern slave owner do we choose, Republican or Democrat? Yeah. And by the way, there's a whole thing. I can't remember the name of the poet, or else I try to find it and let it just play out so you can hear it. I'm trying to remember it. There's a guy who wrote it, and it's long too, and I'd be willing to let y'all listen to it the whole time. It's like 14, 15 minutes long. But it basically talks about there was a slave plantation, right? There were all these slaves on there. The master did what masters did, abused people, rape women, rape men, all types of stuff, beat people up, people dying, et cetera, right? There's obviously hierarchy. You got overseers who think they're better, even though they live the same life that slaves do. They just get to whip on slaves, so they think they're better. All this stuff is going on. Eventually, though, what happens is there's something we would call a rebellion, which back then they would have said we had something called drapetomania, meaning that because we wanted to escape slavery, they said that we had a mental health issue. But eventually, they had enough of it, right? So they went and they started beating the brakes off the slave master and trying to take over, right? Now, after this happens, what did they do? Right? After this happens, what the slave master starting to realize, okay, it wasn't a rebellion with everybody, but let's say maybe it was 2-3 people. But he's like, this could get out of pocket soon. He happens to have a cousin, and he happens to have a cousin, and his cousin is is part of the family, slave owner, but not as big as this person going through. But his cousin says, hey, I know a guy who's able to make sure that he can deal with this drapetomania, this mental health issue. So he goes, okay, well, let's hire him for a day, see what happens. If he does well, we'll give him a regular job and let him run things. So they hire this guy. He comes, he's well dressed. He says, hey, you want me to handle this problem with the slaves or whatever? The guy says, yeah, of course, that's what I hired you for. No problem. He walks in front of the master, and he says, hey, I realize you guys are tired of what's going on. You're tired of the situation. You're tired of all these things that are happening. You're tired of the way the master treats you. And they're like, yeah. And they started going, yeah. He says, matter of fact, your master was cruel, isn't he? And the master's like looking like, wait a minute, what? And he's like, yeah, your master is cruel. Like, yeah, he is. And he was like, nobody should be getting beat like this all the time. Well, yeah, you're right. And he said, you should have the right to be able to leave this plantation or not if you want. And they go, yeah, we should be able to leave. He says, okay, cool. He said, this is what we're going to do, though. He said, I need you guys to give us a little bit of time, because they always want to tell you it's not time yet, right? It's not time yet. It's not enough time. It's not this. It's not that. So he said, I need y'all to give me a little more time. He said, this is what I'm going to do. He says, hey, because maybe you could go to another plantation. Now they're thinking plantation. You can go to another country. You can go to another party. But like, what if you were to just go somewhere where you could be free? You didn't have to go to a plantation. But he didn't say that. He says, but you can go to another plantation, and maybe it would be better there. Maybe it wouldn't. But you might have an even crueler master, or you might have this. He says, but you know what? We'll settle this. Tomorrow, come back, and we'll make things better for you. And the master is like, what you do? I hired you to make sure that you squash this thing. What did you just do? He said, just come back tomorrow. Said everything's right on point, right on target. Everything you want's gonna happen. And he looks at his cousin. He's like, what did you do? So him and his cousin come back. This guy comes back again the next day. He says, look, I have he basically talks to the master and the cousin beforehand. And you'll see why I said it in a second. He comes out to him. He says, look, the master is cruel, but look, I'm telling you, there's worse things out there, but it's worse out. You don't know what's out there besides this plantation. Who knows if you'll be able to eat? Who knows if you'll be able to build your own place to stay? Who knows if somebody will come get you and kidnap you and make you part of another government? He says, so this is what we'll do. He says that we have this master right here, and then we have this other guy who could become your master. And we're going to let them talk in front of you. And we're going to let them tell you what they're going to do for you as a people, what their promises are, right? And so they have the master, and who the people don't even know is his cousin. Now, question, do you not know that Democrats and Republicans, they're all family? Do you not know that every president is in the same family? Y'all see how this works? So he has them come to the same plantation people who are ready to go and stuff like this. And so he says, hey, you guys vote and see which one you want. You're in control. You get to say who your master is going to be for the next 4 years. They say, cool, all right. So they come out and they both do it, but they're part of the same family, same corporation, going to do the same thing. But one says, hey, you know, well, I've been with you. We've done this. We've gone through these things, whatever. The other one comes up, hey, I promise you that things will be different and this and that or whatever. Everybody says, yeah, that's so great. So they end up voting for the new master, even though the master still has control. It's just his cousin is going to be the face, but they vote for the new face. Now what starts happening is that, so they say, cool. So they take a break the next day and they don't work. And then, but then they say, and so the guy comes back again, who they hired. He says, hey, you know what? If you're going to be part of this great plantation, you know, we got to make sure people are eating. We got to make sure people are clothed. Are you not going to put in work? They say, yeah, well, we can put in work, but we don't have to put in as much work as we're doing. He was like, well, now it's different. See, before you were working for the master. Now the master is working for you. Somebody, right? And then they started kind of questioning a little bit. And there was this one guy, this young guy in particular, he didn't say it out loud yet, but in his mind, he said, well, the master's not out here slaving. Yeah, he don't get whipped. He don't do, but everybody kind of said, okay, I guess we'll chip in because it's ours now. So we've got to work like slaves still. Okay. So they started working like slaves and they started realizing that all of a sudden they were getting whipped and everything the same amount they were getting whipped before. So they called a meeting this time. So now the guy comes back with the cousin and the master and all this stuff. And they start saying, you know, well, it doesn't seem like much change, this and that or whatever. And he says, well, no, like he said, if something needs to be done, if somebody doesn't do right, you know, shouldn't they be punished? If your child doesn't do right, wouldn't you spank them? Right? They say, I guess. And then finally the young guy, he said something, he says, I don't think that's right. Like, I don't think that's correct. Like, if we're not slaves anymore, then why don't we have equal right to what the master has? Like, why can't we have our own homes? Why are we still living in stuff where it's leaking and this and that or whatever? And so the guy who's now the teacher, he says, hey, you see this guy? He's messing things up. We could just go back to where you guys are slaves, right? We allowed you to be free. But see, this person, this young man right here, he doesn't get it. So they take the young man and they put him in front of everybody and they whip him just once. And he cries out, and the people look at him and say, but they say, see, we had to deal with him. See, we're not going to whip him the same way we used to, but see, we whipped him, but it's only because he was acting up. You guys know what it is to be free, though. And you know what happened? Because you're dealing with the people that are messed up in their mind. You know what happened after that? The next part of the story says that they started mumbling about the young boy who got whipped rather than the guy who whipped him. They started coming together. Oh, you know, well, yeah, you know, he messing things up. We were slaves and now we free, even though they're doing the same work as slaves, but they're saying they're free, right? Then eventually it gets to a place to where they have another meeting, and this time it's supposed to be a holiday. So they say, yeah, you guys can have 3 hours off today. Everybody's so excited. 3 hours off. Cool. That's so great. We used to have no time off, this and that or whatever. That's so awesome, right? And the guy said, and the same young boy finally says, look, I can't take any more of this. You say that we're supposed to be free, but we still work as slaves. You said that we would be able to have say-so and things, but we still have to be, if we say something, we get whipped. You said that we were supposed to be able to develop families, but we're still not allowed to get married. You say this, you say that, but you keep doing the opposite of it. And so guess what? The guy who spoke, he said, see, I told you guys about this type of thing or whatever. And everybody now gets in on it. Yeah, you're bad. You're this, you're that, right? They tie him to a pole in the middle of everybody and he starts getting whipped. But this time they give the whip to his own people. And his people start whipping him. And in the fervor of everything, they don't even realize that basically after a while, he's been dead. But they're still whipping his lifeless body. But they're in such fervor as far as protecting their freedom. They don't even realize that they were voting for the Republican Democrat. They were voting for the slave master or his cousin. And now they got into a place where the guy turns around. He says, look, my work here is done. I'm going to move on to the next place. Because now the same Willie Lynch mentality, all we had to get was the first generation to turn on each other, right? Or to turn on each other out of fear to where now the next generation will kill each other just because it's the habit. Right now, somebody hears that and thinks, "Oh, I'm just talking about slavery and black people only." No, all of y'all are dealing with that. Is my point. You think that because you're a citizen, you're free, but citizens are slaves in this country. It's not a. I don't think it's. I think it's supposed to be allegory, but it's something that's supposed to help us to realize like what's going on with the Republican Democrat thing and how you can liken it to chattel slavery. We're not talking about chattel slavery just because we want you to say the white man is evil or something like that. That's trash. What I'm trying to tell you is you need to know about it because the same thing they instituted on black, white is the same thing they think. Remember, overseers had to be retaught. Y'all think that all white people used to even believe they were white. The term white for a people is a new thing, relatively speaking. Like they had to teach people they were white. They had to teach people that you were bad because you were black, excuse me, or indigenous, whatever. You had to teach people these things. So you had to separate it then. Now you got to teach people to be Republican and Democrat. I'm watching on my screen in front of me. They got Sports Center talking about the Dallas Philly football game last night. How many people were born Philadelphia Eagles fans? Some of y'all say stuff like that. I was born a Dallas Cowboy fan. I was born an Eagles fan. How you born an Eagles fan? Were you born it or did somebody have to put it in your mind? Yeah, same mentality that they see, right? You know, were you born an Eagles fan or did you have to be taught to be an Eagles fan? If your mom and daddy dressed you in Eagles gear, it wasn't because you asked them to, it was because somebody put it on you. See, when we're having a conversation about leaving the system, you got to recognize it's not just about only black versus white, because not even all black, not all skin folk is kinfolk, and not all Israel is Israel. Yeah, voting is choosing a master who you be. By the way, we should all have a master in a sense because a master is a teacher. So we should all have a teacher, but who is your teacher? Are you trying to be taught having to live on somebody's plantation? Yeah, it's a method that he was using to create proud slaves. Yeah, a lot of them are proud of being slaves. A lot of people today are proud of being slaves. I was a slave for this company for 60 years, and they gave me a gold watch and a pension. Now, I celebrate your ability to be able to work hard for your family. I will not celebrate though somebody thinking that made you valuable. You're more valuable than that company. Matter of fact, the government sometimes will even call you a corporation. And if you're not careful, you'll miss that. The problem is if you're going to be a corporation, at least be a private corporation. Yeah, being first requires servitude. You said same way as religion. Well, religion, once again, religion. Religion is a legion of people that repetitively do the same thing. Right now, this isn't coffee, this is juice. But if I were to have coffee or whatever, if you're a coffee drinker, a bunch of people drink coffee. So if I drink coffee, this is religious right here, by definition. So I'm not worried about your what you're trying to define or whatever, right? Like or not what you're trying to define. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it that way. I was trying to say more so like I'm not worried about what you do every day as much as what you're doing every day causing growth, right? Like I can care less what you call yourself. I can care less if you, as much as people like. My heart is that I feel like people should be into some form of spirituality. I have a particular one specifically. Thanks, babe, for the love. However, like it doesn't matter what you want to call yourself. Do you do something that causes progress? We can talk about all that stuff later, but let's make the main thing for a second. Is what you're doing benefiting our people? Right, whether you want to say our people is talking about our diaspora as far as color, our diaspora as far as belief, our diaspora as far as humanity, whatever it is what you're doing helping people to benefit and to grow. Because if not, then that's all of that is religion. You can be a religious Republican, you can be a religious Democrat, you can be a religious Libertarian, you can be a religious communist, you can be a religious husband, you can be a religious wife. Like it don't matter what you want to call yourself. Like I'm more concerned about, is it helping? Right? If you got a message that tells people to be subservient to a government and you say, well, pray for your enemies, and you tell people pray for your enemies means that you should let them slap you on one cheek and give them the other. I'm not really trying to do all that. My wife says she drinks tea religiously, and she does, right? That's a religious act because she does it all the time, and a lot of people do it all the time. That's what religion means. But they got us so separated on words that our etymology even comes to trying to separate ourselves one from another. Oh yeah, I'm not religious like you are. Well, are you a Republican? Yeah, I vote Republican all the time. And I wave saying, are you a Democrat? Yeah, I wave this. Are you an American? Yeah, America, F yeah. Like the movie says. Are you talking about the South should rise again? Of course, because I'm talking about the rights for our states. That's religion. All of that's religion. If you communist, whatever you want to call yourself, I don't think you should call yourself any of those things, because that's all pieces of stuff that people are trying to make religions out of. But whatever you want to call yourself, put that label on it. If you're gonna, whatever you call yourself, you authorize yourself to become it. You said what day talking about in the Black dictionary? Well, Black's Law Dictionary, not written by a black person, written by somebody whose last name happens to be black. And he wrote a dictionary to help you out so that you would always have something to confirm how law works and you would know what these words meant. So he has something called Black's Law Dictionary. There's 11 editions of them. And you should make sure that you look up these definitions, because when you go to court, that's what they mean. When a lot of, not all, like you should look up some other dictionaries as well. But if you got a Black's Law Dictionary, you're going to be pretty great. Okay, so you were just kidding. Okay, I was just saying there's some people who actually, I wasn't trying to say to be offensive, by the way. I was just saying in general, there are some people that believe this. So I'm sorry, Shalala, you said, let's go. What resources should you look into for you to move forward since you are not a U.S. citizen according to the U.S. Supreme Court? Well, thank you. Well, once again, try to read Black's Law Dictionary. If you'd like to look up somebody on YouTube who's great at sovereignty just in and of itself, and spirituality as well, even though, he cusses and stuff like that, but he's got a message. If you can get past the sensibilities as far as that, he's got a great message as far as sovereignty. But Yusef L, Yusef, last name Lel. Look up dictionaries, by the way, of how law works in Europe. Look up ancient European law dictionaries, because they're using the same stuff. We just don't know. Yeah, see if you can get every edition. Get every single edition. Like, that's why we tell people, if you get pulled over or something like that, don't tell the officer that you were driving. Tell the officer you were traveling. What's the difference? Somebody who drives, the only reason you have to be licensed to drive, according to the law, is because you are literally working for somebody who says that you must have a driver's license in order to work for us or in order to travel from point A to point B. But if you're not at work, you don't need a license. Like, they can't arrest you just because you don't have a license. I know people say that if you don't have a license, I could arrest you. No, they can't. Right? You don't have to have a driver's license to be able to travel in the car. Traveling is a right that you have, but you don't know the laws to protect your rights. You see what I'm saying? So traveling is a right that you have, but we don't know the laws to protect your rights. Laws don't give rights. Laws protect rights. So we're going to speak on these things. You got to know how to deal with that in any state. In any state. Right? You need an ID to be in a state, so they say. So if you want an ID, where's your passport? If you want an ID, get a state ID. If you must have a state ID, get a state ID. You can have a state. Matter of fact, if you have a state ID, you're not allowed to have a license, right? You have a license, you're not allowed to have a state ID. Why is that? Why do you think that is? Now, once again, if you don't know all the steps, that's why we teach the class. See, people are going to go out and just be like, I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to stop doing this. That's why it has to be a holistic thing, whereas you're going to end up getting yourself in trouble if you don't know exactly what you're doing, right? And you got to look up the laws, look up the UCC, see if the state tries to get tricky with something. You can still do it, but you might have to make sure certain things. If you do have a license, you might want to get your license redone and sign it and say you want to re-sign your license. And when you re-sign your license, put above it beneath the signature UCC 1-308, put above the signature without prejudice in quotation marks, right? So that if the cop stops you on a traffic violation, if you show up to the court and you tell the judge, from pretty much all states, you tell the judge, hey, they stopped me and this is what it said. The judge will probably look at the officer and say, hey, like, did they tell you that that's what it said on there? Did you look on their license? And it'll and it'll probably be like dismissed, because it protects your human rights. We just don't know these things, right? So, but you got to recognize who you are. This whole system, it's not just black, white thing I'm talking about. This whole system is designed to make slaves, right? The whole system is designed. Your country runs off of prison labor. Your country runs off of prison labor. It's been running off prison labor. It never really stopped, right? Like, your country, it runs off of prison labor. That's what you're dealing with. If you work at a fast food establishment, more than likely the uniform that you're wearing, it was made by somebody in prison who was getting paid pennies per hour. If you live in California and you deal with the dry seasons and stuff, and you deal with the forest fires that happen up there, guess what? They go ahead and they put the people who are out in those forest fires that put them out. A lot of them are prisoners who are trained, and they pay them like $1, $2 a day. If they happen to die, so what? It's bigger than just, oh, black or white. It started off as black or white. Really, it didn't even start off as black or white, but it became black or white through the Pope, right? And then after that, it took on a whole nother life within itself. And now people are still arguing over it, not realizing that they're getting all y'all. All the system runs off. And by the way, the person who asked, so you put without prejudice in quotation marks above the signature, and then you put UCC 1, the number, these are all numbers. So UCC, then the number 1, hyphen, the number 3, the number 0, the number 8. UCC 1-308. Used to be known as UCC 1-207 or 1-207. Look those up on your own, right? Well, those are just things to protect you. But once again, you got to research what 1-308 is talking about. How you doing, Miss Modesty? And all these things are designed what? To help us to get out of a wicked and corrupt system. Yeah, UCC 1-308. That's it. UCC 1-308. You can put a space in between the C and the 1, right? You said, what's the difference between becoming a free national, a sovereign, and a global citizen? I don't know much about the whole global citizen thing. I mean, you're global just because you're a human being. So I don't know what needs to be established you as a global citizen. That's something that's new to me. And I don't know if it's necessary because I've done much travel. And when you go other places, they don't even care. Even though they care about black and white in other places, you know, more than what people want to lead on to. They don't really worry about your citizenship when you're over there. Like, you know, if you're foreign, you're foreign. That's kind of like if you're foreign black and stuff, yeah, but they'll treat foreign blacks different than they treat the domestic blacks. Like, just like in America, if like with the whole Ukraine thing and them bringing Ukrainians to America, all the white Ukrainians got to stay, but all the black Ukrainians, they had to go over to Africa, right? Even if they weren't even born in Africa, because they know, even though you think it doesn't matter where you're from, it matters who you're from. And so if you're from Africa, then they say you go back to Africa. That's why you get a bunch of people on here to be like, go back to Africa, because they know deep down inside, it doesn't matter where you're from, it matters who you're from, and who you're from could be something that's a threat, right? So a lot of people don't realize that. But as far as global citizenship, though, usually domestic, like foreign, if you just from somewhere different, you just happen to be foreign, they don't really care like that. And if anything, because if you mess up, you know, they can't really arrest you and do too much stuff unless you really, really mess up. But if you mess up, they can just put you on a ship, on a plane, whatever, in a car, and just take you out their country. As far as talking about, what was it? I'm sorry, let me find a question exactly, because there were 3 parts to it. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling back. Okay, so free national and a sovereign. As far as a free national, I don't know about the free national piece. There's different people that do it different ways. I don't know if you're talking about becoming a freedman, you know, becoming whatever indigenous tribe of the Americas that you're able to prove and be accepted into, so that you can go ahead and get citizenship and stuff changed. But we just, it's kind of a catch-all to say non-citizen national. I don't know about the free national part, but non-citizen national, and non-citizen national is just saying on paper, getting your passport done, saying that you don't accept having to be in the United States corporation. That's pretty simple. We teach people that it's not that difficult to be able to make that happen. As far as, I'm sorry, non-citizen, as far as becoming sovereign is a lifestyle. Once again, sovereignty is not just a piece of paper. Sovereignty, you got to make sure you can take care of yourself. And probably if you want to live with other sovereign citizens, it's probably for the best, because obviously the more people that you live around that have your belief system, that act like you, that walk like you, talk like you, eat like you, etc., you're going to have a much easier existence. But non-citizen national is the way to go. You know, but once again, you know, look up some of these terms that we're talking about today. You know, we have classes, like I said, you know, you're not too far behind if you want to join up for some of them. Especially Sovereignty 1 and Sovereignty 2. Right now, we're in the midst of teaching Black History 1, Sovereignty 1, Sovereignty 2, Natural Medicine 1, Discipleship, Hebrew Characters, Kingdom Law, Herbalism 2, Marriage, and Solutions from the Black Perspective. So if you want to join up for anything, you can for sure. And we have recordings of them for you to be able to catch up on. But it's very, you got to realize, like, it's here we go with these terms. Now people might not like me using the terminology that I'm using because it might not mix and match correctly. But here's some of these terms, right? Like these terms that we're dealing in. What does it mean to be a disciple? It means to be disciplined. So if you would like to sign up, I'm sorry, I didn't say that part. Thank you. You can just look on the TikTok page, look at the link tree, click on the link tree, or go to the YouTube channel, hashtag FindKofi, hashtag FindKofi. So my name, like you're looking for somebody, hashtag FindKofi, KOFI. You can go on the YouTube channel. Please feel free to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification tab as well. But find the video and look in the description box when you're watching the video, and you should be able to find information on the classes, and you should be able to find information to text us, contact us, email us, contact us as well. All right. So and thank you for that. These are things that we once again aren't really aware of. We don't really look at them correctly, and so we're messed up. So somebody says citizen. For example, even when somebody was talking about a citizen earlier, we're going back to the Constitution, being constitutional, right? Somebody earlier was making the argument talking about, originally in the Constitution, citizen, blah, blah, blah. Do you guys know that there's two types of citizens even in your Constitution? Even if you just want to, because technically there's two constitutions. You got to learn how to read it. But do you know that there's two constitutions technically, because there's a constitution where there's a capital C for citizenship, and there's a constitution where there's a lowercase c for citizenship. Now, where do you think that happened? Since everybody's talking about this stuff, when do you think that they started making everything that was capital C citizen, and they started writing that lowercase c citizen in the Constitution? When do you think that happened? The bond and the free? Yeah, very similar to that, right? When do you think that happened in your Constitution? This is why we got to read the Constitution. Read your Bible to bless you. Read your Constitution. It happened in the 14th Amendment. Exactly, Brother Vincent. After the 14th Amendment. So what does that mean? That means that all these things they're talking about, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, equality, make sure you got your guns, all that stuff. The Sixth Amendment, right? You ain't got to incriminate yourself. Fifth Amendment rather. Sixth Amendment that basically says, hey, I need to even know why I'm here as far as trial, different things. There's other stuff that comes with these amendments as well. All those things, you love all those things, right? But then we get to what? The 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment said what? They still had a capital C on the 13th Amendment. 13th Amendment said that we get rid of chattel slavery just because you're black. But if we happen to imprison you, you are now a chattel slave. Right? All right. So now after we finish that, then in the 14th Amendment, now everything is a lowercase c. So so uppercase C, real citizens, real people, they actually have authority. But in our system, people with the lowercase c, fake people, they don't. And a lot of people keep talking about freedom of speech, but you got to be a uppercase C citizen to talk about that. You got to be a sovereign. You got to be private. You have to be somebody that deserves the right to have free speech. You think that everybody gets free speech, but then you get mad. Well, why is TikTok taking this down and doing this? And then, no, TikTok is a private corporation. You don't got no free speech up in there. If TikTok takes down video or channel, that's why we got four channels. And they take down one, hey, you got every right, TikTok, that's yours. It ain't mine. That's yours. This is your country. I'm in virtually. I'm in a virtual country right now. So if TikTok lies on me, though, then I use their law and say, why are you lying according to your law? See, I got to know whose country I'm in. We don't know how law works. I got to know whose country I'm in. If I'm in TikTok country works different than YouTube country, and YouTube country works different than Twitter country, and Twitter country works different than Facebook country, and Facebook country, even though it's owned by the same people, works different than Instagram country. Like, it's different countries you're walking into. Well, guess what? If you go to North Carolina work different than Maryland country, and Maryland country work different than California country, and California country work different than Texas country, and federal corporation and federal government country, that works different than Alabama country. See, you see what I'm saying? You're talking about context and culture. You're talking about a mindset. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? And thank you for the love. Appreciate it, right? We're talking about different things, but people are trying to make this one thing. You think that you are a citizen with an uppercase C, and you don't even realize that you are a lowercase c citizen because you think you're American because you were born here. You signed off on it. Your parents signed off on it. You continue to sign off on it. You pay taxes to keep on being it, but you come from freedmen. If you come from freedmen, then that means that you're free anyways. Why would you sign off that you're not free? Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. right? If you don't like that, give me some dap, whatever it is, right? But you know I'm telling the truth. You don't want to. You come on, somebody. Like you know that you're supposed to be free, but you keep signing all the documentation to say why you ain't free no more. And then they take away your freedoms. You say they took them away, but then time out. Didn't you sign it away? If I signed it away, they ain't take nothing. They're not wrong. They said, "Yo, we'd like to be able to take this from you. Would you allow us to?" You said, "Sure." You signed on the dotted line, and you did so cheerfully. We can't get you to be a cheerful giver, but you were even happy that day. You were like, "I'm so excited I get to," and they were like, "Yeah, we excited too. We excited too. Thank you so much. We appreciate you." You said I have legit evidence from a Facebook post with like 0 likes on it. Did you find out? You know who? Okay, so I guess you know this particular person who's on there, but you know this person got it from an actual case that exists that you can read up on and verify for yourself. But who cares? If your whole thing is enough people have to agree with the truth to make it true, then you're not going to ever find truth. I hope that you get better than that. And I hope that you stop trying to depreciate people, because when you depreciate a person, really it just appreciates them anyway. So I appreciate you as you depreciate me, because when you talk bad about me or talk bad about somebody who I would think is a human being first, and you say that, well, their humanity is not as great as how many likes and shares and subscriptions that they have, then I'll go ahead and rock with that person every time before I would rock with somebody such as yourself. And obviously you wouldn't rock with me anyways, because you think that I shouldn't be listened to, or I shouldn't put something up because you said that they have no likes on something. Who cares? Who cares? Is it true? I don't need you to agree with truth. You need you to agree with truth. I don't need you to agree with truth. I agree with it already. I live in it already. I don't care if it's Prince or Michael Jackson or Billie Jean or whoever. I don't care. I don't care who says truth. I don't care if it's Dr. Phil. I don't care if it's Oprah. And they don't care about my people anyways. I don't care. I don't care if it's the president of Ghana who sold us out. I don't care who it is. If they tell the truth, they tell the truth. I don't care if it's Trump that tells the truth. If Trump tells the truth, he tells the truth. I don't care if it's Biden, whoever, Reagan. They tell you some truths. All of them liars, but all of them tell you the truth. Sometimes when they tell the truth, I listen. You think somebody got to have a certain amount of likes before you can listen to what they have to say? That means that you don't look at people's humanity. That speaks to where you are. Be better, right? This year we living in that which we have pursued, and we're gonna hashtag finish strong. Excuse me, for the rest of this year. In that, I'm not trying to finish strong in something that makes you happy because it's got enough views on it. You should never do anything just for views. You really ain't freed in. You a prostitute if you're looking for views. I believe you to be greater than a prostitute. Like, I don't care if, like, yesterday when we did our thing, we were really low in numbers or whatever. It wasn't for everybody. We were having a celebration. Everybody didn't feel invited to the celebration. Kind of, sort of, everybody wasn't. So we had low numbers. Guess what? It was still powerful. I ain't come here for the views. If you came here for the views, you in the wrong thing. When I had 0 views for years on lives, just as long as the ones I do now, I didn't care about how many people were on. And when I stopped caring, guess what happened? When you don't care, you just be who you are. When you are who you are, that's when you jump. Hey, it is prostitute. For real, for real. You prostituting yourself. I'm not even going to listen to you unless I see that you got 500 likes on what you're using as a case. It's like the Dred Scott case was before social media existed. What are you doing? Anyways, let me stop, because somebody probably think I'm being mean. I'm just trying to tell. I just said this today. I'm gonna have to be on the early rising Bible study. I was just talking about this year, the press and the strain. See, I told you somebody gonna come up in here. Oh, calm down, calm down. This person came on and said that whatever I say is not valuable, but they ain't say calm down to that person. Hallelujah. But that's okay. I know who I am. I know whose I am. I know how calm I usually am. And sometimes, guess what? Even if Yashua could flip over a table from time to time, I could tell somebody that they need to stop prostituting themselves for views. Every once in a while, that's going to jump out. It's okay. I still love that person. If I didn't love him, I'd say, man, you know what? You're right. Just try and make sure you get enough views, and then we should say that it's truth. No, I love him more than that. Right? I love him more than that. I told y'all, I'm gonna pray about it, because this pressing strain, I know it's gonna press me. Y'all gonna be like, why y'all pressing so much? Because sometimes we're gonna have to get up in there and make sure somebody gets it. The truth cuts. The truth separates. It's called a double-edged sword, right? The old preachers used to say, "It cuts you going in, it cuts you when it's coming out." Right? That's how truth works. Truth separates. Luke chapter 12, verse 51. Right? You think I came that there would be peace on earth? No, I came that mother would be against daughter, and father would be against son, and mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, and father-in-law against father-in-law against son-in-law. Why? Because if you give somebody the truth, people got to make a decision. You said the post is incorrect, though. The 14th Amendment overruled the decision. Where did the 14th Amendment overrule the decision? See, once again, we're not correct in this. Because first of all, if we were going to say this, we have to say that yes, the Dred Scott decision was in fact something that said that we're not citizens, period, because you have African descent. Now, if you want to say it's not complete, then fine. But the problem is, it is actually complete, right? You're trying to, once again, and hello to you. We should probably start up and say hello to each other as human beings. Now that we've done that, or at least I've done that, I don't know if you will. Now that we've talked about that, though, are you talking about a citizen with a uppercase C or a lowercase c? Because black people can be citizens with a lowercase c, but we were never supposed to be citizens with a uppercase c. That's why still to this day, if you go to court, you should never go to court officially written down as a black person. You should always be a non-citizen national, right? Or a Moor, if you can make that happen, or a freedman, or whatever tribe you come from if you're indigenous, but never go to court as a black person, a colored person, a Negro, etc. Why? Because according to law, though a black person, a colored person, a Negro, or an African American even, are considered to be artificial persons. See, which citizen are you talking about? Are you talking about a citizen with a uppercase C or a lowercase c? After the 14th Amendment, everybody got lumped into lowercase c citizenship. Before then, real citizens were uppercase C citizens. Do you want to be an uppercase C citizen? You said it's nonsense. Okay, go read the Constitution for yourself. You don't know how this stuff works. You've never read Black's Law Dictionary. When somebody says that they're there, they don't know about Robert Black. They don't know about a white man who wrote a dictionary to tell you how to make sure it was interpreted. And the same thing that the Supreme Court would use till this day, the same thing they're going to use in your different states till this day to be able to decide law. You've never opened the book. You've never opened the book, so you don't know what it is. I already know. When you say it's nonsense, it means you're somebody who is unlearned in that dimension. So once again, become learned in that, or learned. Some of you like that term, right? We like to add an ed on stuff, or beloved, learned, right? So become learned in it if you would like. Popular is not the same as prosperity. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I'm sorry. Thanks for being part of the community, Kelsey. Right. Well, if you claim Indigenous American, then just make sure you can claim it on paper. They're going to make you go around the rim. See, that's what I'm saying. It's one thing. And by the way, I agree with you that you should be that. And maybe if you say it, some people will automatically let it go, right? But, find people that are in there. Some tribes, they just say, if you can declare it, they'll go ahead and back you up on what you declare. So, but those are things. But I'm saying, somebody's on here having a conversation and they're talking about something and they're not even in the right culture. A uppercase citizen, and if you don't believe it's so, then you need to figure out why in the Constitution does it always get to the 14th Amendment and all of a sudden citizen is no longer uppercase, it's now lowercase. They basically put up their middle finger to you. They basically said, like, see, starting here, you're not even a citizen anymore. They literally said that. You know what I'm saying? They literally came out and told you in the Constitution, but you don't know how to read law. So you think law is like a regular conversation. You think that black means black, right? That's why some of my Moorish brethren, I be telling them you mess up because they talk about, oh no, black means white and blah, blah, this and that or whatever. But no, like you can't talk about, because what's the definition of a blackamoor? You can't tell me that you want to be defined as a blackamoor, but at the same time that black means white. But then what they're trying to say is, oh no, because black really means white and black people were considered to be white. No, white means the absence of color. There is no such thing as color white. If you're indigenous, that's great. Yeah, I'm part indigenous as well. I had no problem with that. What I'm saying is that even if you go to court, you say you're indigenous, and guess what? If somebody really wants to, they can say, show me you are. Now, you should be able to say, look at me, but they ain't gonna necessarily go off that. Right? But when somebody's talking about I'm free or I'm this or I'm that, and I'm trying to get you to see that what started off with the Dred Scott decision is something that's really made its way down to everybody. None of us are really, if you're in this citizenship of the United States Corporation, then none of us are really free. The only people that are really free in capitalism are those that have capital. That's it. If you don't have capital, you're not really free in capitalism, because capitalism is a system. Look up the definition of capitalism real quick and come back if you want. Capitalism is defined as a system in which politics and economics are used to control trade and industry. That trade and industry is wielded by private corporations and not the state. Well, if you didn't come over on a boat, that's fine. Some of us have people that came from many different places, whether they were boats from Africa or boats from Haiti or boats from Dominicano or boats from Puerto Ricano or Cubano, Brazil. Some of us did come from those places, and that's easy to even see. Somebody be like, well, where's the proof of this and that or whatever? Go and look for the Confederate flag down in Brazil. You'll find it. You think the Confederate flag is just something that's up here. And I'm not talking about the Confederate flag that they stole from the Haudenosaunee or the Iroquois people. I'm talking about go down and look at the fact that they got white people in Brazil still to this day. And supposedly they just made it illegal, but they still have celebrations still to this day where they'll come out and they'll wave those rebel flags. Right? But everybody's talking about, oh, show us the proof and blah, blah. Like it's around you. See, what happens is if you start getting rid of the people who are doing this or whatever, yeah, like you had breeding stuff, but before you had breeding stuff, they were still already bringing people over in different places. Matter of fact, you have to realize that when you talk about African, even you got to talk about before Columbus, you got to talk about before those things, that there were black people coming on their own boats, just trading with people that were over here already. You're dealing with the same people. You were already married in, even if you want to go to that level. How you doing, Sister Deja? Right? You were already married in, even if you want to go to that level. So whichever one you're talking about, and even if you're talking about some of the Floridians, then you got to talk about Seminole folk and John Horace, who is somebody who was actually brought over on a ship. Him and other people who were sometimes indigenous slaves who were able to get free, or African slaves that were able to get free, or Irish slaves that were able to get free. We don't even talk about that, but there's many different people. Right, or Aztec, Inca, whatever, right? Cherokee, Choctaw, all these different slaves. But nevertheless, these slaves came together a lot in Florida. Spain at one point was over Florida. They were trying to fight against America, so they were telling people, if you get free, come down here. We'll let you go ahead and fight with us. A lot of people were coming there even before that, let alone when Spain said come on over, and they were becoming parts of the tribes and marrying in. To the point to where now we don't even talk about specific tribes. We just all lump them all in the Seminole as if they weren't separate tribes. And then John Horace and them, when they needed to, they ran across the south of America, came all the way into Mexico, fought with the Mexicans against the Americans that tried to run up on them and take them back and say, we want these slaves back because it makes us look bad if we lost these slaves. Fought with the Mexicans, won, and still to this day are looked upon with great pride by Mexican people for the fight that they had. See, like we have this weird thing. Once again, let's stop separating ourselves. I don't want to say that there was a slave trade, or I think you make too much about slave trade. We all have to be indigenous. We all have to be slave. Like, no, even in the time of Pangea, or even if you believe in the Bible, there's a Pangea type, recollection of the earth before it separates. And any of them, you still have people that walked across in Africa, South America, North America, India, Madagascar. Places like Babylon, stuff like that, like they would have been connected with each other anyways. So any way you want to put it, it's about becoming one. Even with this whole thing about continents, y'all think that there's 7 continents because somebody taught you that. Reality is that the original definition of continent is that it's a large landmass completely surrounded by water, correct? So that means that if it's got to be a large landmass completely surrounded by water, Europe is not a continent, Asia is not a continent, and Africa is not a continent, because they are all connected one to another, which means that that's one continent. So that's one. Then you got Australia, then you got Antarctica, and then you have North America and South America still attached to each other. So you really technically got 4, except even that's wrong because they're all still connected underneath the water, which means there's one continent. We're still all one. So you talking about citizenship and this and that and how we got here, we're all the same people. Certain things happen with lack of melanin, certain things happen with lack of nutrients, certain things happen as far as certain people that started trying to put together like, oh, only these type of people were marrying this type of people, things like that. But we're all one. See what I'm saying? I'm trying to get you past this thing. See, a lot of people see this and see, here he goes. He's getting ready to say, why black folk need to just say that we're better than everybody else. No, I think that we should be able to uplift our tribes. However, it's okay to be one with everybody while uplifting your tribes, right? I don't know why people have such a tough time with that. It's okay for me to say black folk let's get our stuff together, and at the same time say, I can honor you as somebody who's not black. Right? It's weird, but you know you do it. Watch this. There's two great people that are at the table over here, Minister Joseph, Minister Sharon, right? My wife, if she was sitting here with me or whatever, she's here with me. I'm in the hotel, but she's not here physically right now. If we were sitting here, both of us could be in this tribe. Let's call it black. Let's call it Israel, whatever you want to call it. Let's call it black, just to make it easier for everybody. So we're in this tribe called black. Within that, or we're in humanity, or in this, let's just call it this thing called black. I don't even like the social construct, but let's just do it. So we're in this thing called black, right? But are there two different tribes in that thing called black? Right? Of course. Like Joseph and Sharon are one tribe, and Maya and I are one tribe. Right? It doesn't mean though that we're not both in the same blackness, if you will. Right? And people have a weird thing with that. Like if I say, hey, black people, let's make sure that we take care of some or Israelites or Cherokee or whatever your case is, people who believe in the word, whatever diaspora you want to have maintenance over and become part of. If I say we should protect ourselves and love on ourselves and honor traditions and culture, it doesn't mean that we can't honor each other. You said, so question, the government is who separating divided people. That's not the question. What's the question? No offense, right? That's not even a rhetorical question. Is that the question? The government, are you saying, I don't get it. Did you have another part? Mind glitch, my mind works overtime, by the way, so please don't take offense. I get stuck on like every single word. So, well, somebody jumped in there. My question is, how come blacks are the what? Are the worst? Are the criminals? Are the this? Are the that? You said are the most obsessed with their race than any other race? Okay. Would you like an actual answer? Please, nobody mute this person. Please don't mute him. Please don't mute him for a second. Right? Please don't mute this person for a second, because let's have honest conversation. You ready? Why are black people obsessed about their race and any other race? Is that a genuine question? Would you like to have a genuine back and forth discussion? Because I'd love to have it if it's genuine. If it's not genuine, then we gotta leave you alone. But if it's genuine, let's have the conversation. All right? If it's genuine, do you want to have a genuine conversation about that? Do you really want to know? Is it something that you're just saying black people talk about black too much? Do you want to have a genuine conversation? It's genuine? Okay, watch this. Who is more obsessed about black? The person that said black is evil, or the person that didn't even call themselves black in the beginning? Let's start there with the conversation. Who is more obsessed about black, since you said we're the most obsessed about black? Like, who's more obsessed about black? Is it the person who said that because you're black, you're bad? Or is it the person that never had a problem and never said that I need to be better than you because I'm black? Right? I'm not going to say white people, because not all white people said it, right? But let's start there. You see, genuine conversation, genuine question, genuine conversation. We're going back and forth. Let's play tennis rather than say somebody's got to be right or wrong. Why is it being obsessed? Who's more obsessed, first of all? Why is it that you don't say that the person who enslaved somebody is obsessed with the color, but the person who was enslaved is more obsessed with the color? You got to ask that question. Okay, so popular. Once again, it doesn't seem like you want to have a genuine conversation, but genuine question. If you're going to have victims, you can't, by definition, you cannot have victims without having victors. And you cannot have victors without victors creating victims. So why is it that you talk about people that are victims, but you don't talk about the victors that created the victims? Why is that not important? Why is it only important to down the people that literally were stripped of language, culture, and were told they were absolutely nothing? But why is it okay to uplift the victor who stripped somebody of them and then taught everybody that they were trash, including the people who focus on trying to come out of being trash? You said victors are the banks that enslave you? Sure, those banks made money off of what? Capitalism. Capitalism is what? When politics and economics are used to control trade industry, that trade industry is wielded by private corporations and not the state or not the government. So question, who are the private corporations and what did they say to do concerning black people? You know that Christopher Columbus was sent by a private corporation. ultimately led by the Pope to be able to go and get slaves. That was what he was sent by. He created victims. You said in the tribe still enslaved people. Okay, but you didn't answer my question earlier, right? See, I think now that's going to be disingenuous. And I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Nate? Is it Nate Z? I don't know how to pronounce it. Nate Z Great? Is that what it is? I'm not sure. NAZEEGRA. But now it's going to become disingenuous because you wouldn't answer my question. But you're coming in now just being like, oh, and the tribes still enslaved people, blah, blah. True. Okay, but when white tribes or when Egyptian tribes, because Egyptians are not Kemetic people, right? So Egyptians now they're not Kemetic, so they have enslaved Kemetic people. Or when Kemetic people enslaved other people, sure. When Moors enslaved and sold other people, sure. When Spain sold those other people, whoever did it, they're all bad. They're all evil. So why are we letting certain people off the hook? And just like, by the way, when Jews were enslaved and killed and cooked in ovens, literally, we don't come out and be like, hey, Jews, y'all deserve to be cooked in ovens. That's stupid. Right? And we don't say Hitler. We'll lift you up and say, Hitler, you know what? They deserve what they got. JFK said that about Hitler, that Hitler, it's in the JFK's journal, you can read it, where he said Hitler is going to be a hero one day. But we don't look at Hitler as heroic, right? We don't name our children. We were just having a conversation with somebody about that, with Pastor Hamilton. I was at his assembly. We had a conversation about, yeah, you don't name your child Hitler and stuff anymore because Hitler did some wild, crazy stuff, right? So we don't lift up Hitler. We say what he did was terrible. What he did was bad. Matter of fact, Hitler was on cocaine. You know, Hitler was on cocaine. That's why Hitler looked like that in all them speeches. That's why if you look at Hitler, you'll see Hitler's like shaking. He's on dope. Like Hitler was on crack sometimes doing all them speeches and stuff like that. So that's what, if you look at his hands in some of the speeches, or sometimes he's speaking, right? He's shaking. But I'm not going to take the coke at it and say like, oh, they were right to kill off a bunch of people, whatever, because he was the victor, and now say they're victim blaming. We would never do that with them, right? We would never say to the person from Yugoslavia or former Yugoslavia, oh yeah, you know what? All those people that were doing things to you, you deserved it because those people had the guns and you didn't. You could have defended yourself. They should have shot you down. We would never say to Princess Diana's boys that, you know what, Princess Diana, she decided to leave the kingdom of England, and therefore it's okay that they went ahead and killed her and that Egyptian dude that she got pregnant by. We would never say those things. But when it comes to the social construct, black people, we say that often. When it comes to women who say, make me feel secure, I feel insecure in this man's world. You say it's a man's world, but you tell me it wouldn't be nothing without me, but you treat me like I'm nothing. And we say victim mentality. Why do we do that? Why do you think it's okay to do that? You have to search yourself for that, right? You're not having a problem with me talking about black or white. At that point, you're having a problem with the fact that you are okay with downright human indecency. You got to ask yourself why you're okay with that. That's not my problem. I didn't create any form of slavery, whether it be chattel slavery or whatever. I'm not the creator of any of it, and I don't have any slaves. You know why I don't have any slaves? I don't have any slaves because I'm not a slave. I'm not in debt to anybody, including the United States, and right? And I'm not, and therefore I'm not a slave to anybody. The only person I've decided to go in debt to is to the Most High. And he told me that he no longer calls me servant; he calls me friend. So even it was never about slavery, because slavery you can never get out of. Indentured servitude is what I got into him, and he said, now you're not in indentured servitude; you're a brother or a fellow heir with Yahshua HaMashiach, with Christ. See, and now you say, heck yeah, now we're talking. Well, we were talking that the whole time. You just don't like it when I say oppressed people should be put in that category. But let's read something interesting, since you like that, because people talk about the Bible, but then they really don't live by it. We were talking about that earlier today, right? I think were we talking about that today, Sharon, our Minister Sharon? People like living by the Bible or not saying they live by. I don't know. We were something about living by the Bible, but not living by the Bible. I can't remember. Anyway, I don't know if it was. I don't remember. But let's go to the Beatitudes real quick. Let's go to the Beatitudes. So people love their Bible until you got to actually live by it. Let's go to Matthew chapter 5 and let's see what it says. See, because y'all swear that y'all love to read. Y'all say y'all live by your Bible, and then y'all don't even follow what it says. Now we're talking, because he's making sure that he's taking me off the hook. I was talking when you was on the hook. I was talking when I was on the hook. right? But y'all want to be off the hook. That's how y'all like it. That's off the hook. Y'all like to be off the hook. Y'all like to be with no accountability. That's what off the hook is. The word's supposed to reel you in. You're supposed to have some discipline, and you don't want to be disciplined. Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. This is the Beatitudes. This is your Messiah talking, who you said, now we're talking. All right, let's go ahead and see what he said. He said, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Wait a minute. Blessed is who? That's the first part. You said, oh, thank you, Sister Sheen. Appreciate you. Right? That's the first part. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Who is blessed? Right off the jump. Barak. That means they are going to be served. You said, guess what? We were all slaves. Yeah, I already went through that. I agree with you. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Nope, I would never cut something that's a cultural thing, let alone a promise to the Most High. If you don't like the hair or whatever, then you can just cut yourself out the life. Right? But what's the first thing that pops up? See, you don't know where law comes from. You don't know where law comes from. You talking about law. You don't even know that you can't have universal law without a universe. Universe is a verse, single spoken sentence, which means universe is a single spoken sentence. So who spoke the sentence? That's why you have natural law under that, which says that you can't even patent something if it's already been created by the Most High. That's in law. You don't know how this stuff works. It's that question, if you serve military, will you still be... You can be sovereign and still serve the military, but you have to be careful because you do have an oath. So there's certain things to where, like, if you're going to live like that and say, hey, you're trying to stop being a slave to the military, but you're going to be an indentured servant, you have to realize as an indentured servant, you have signed up for certain things. So if the country that you've signed up for servitude with for a certain amount of years tells you that you have to do thus and such, you got to do it. But those things that you earn through your labor are still yours. So great question. And that goes for the government, period. Right? But first thing it says is blessed, Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Right? That's pneuma. That means the way that the Stoic thought that marries the body, the soul, and the spirit together. Blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Right? So blessed are those that are poor in spirit. That means your mentality ain't even that great. So even if you think somebody has a victim mentality, the kingdom of heaven still belongs to them too. So if the kingdom of heaven belongs to them, see, you focus on when you die. But if it belongs to them when they die, then it should belong to them while they're alive. Why is it that they got to live in a place to where you get to treat them like they dead or nothing? But then when they go to heaven, then you say, oh, now we can all live the same. No, they're supposed to experience heaven here, which means that if they get protection of heaven, there's a protection, a wall up there, then they should have protection from you down here too. You probably did get muted, Phoenix. I'm not the one that mutes. I don't know what you said. We try to make this a safe space, and if you come and if you're disrespectful in certain ways or whatever, the moderators, we trust them to do what they do. So thank you for being back on, though. If you feel there's something to be on, feel free to stay on. And whatever you felt you were saying, feel free to say it again. This time I'll look for it myself, and we'll see if what you're saying is something that's there to actually listen or something that you're just coming on to be like somebody's wrong or this and that or whatever. I don't know what you said. How you doing, Tahiti? He says, as I'm here in this space, I want to say you thankful, wanted to send energy. Oh, thank you, Juan, appreciate you. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Thank you. Right? So Matthew chapter 5, verse 3, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So poor in spirit, that means they're not where you think they should be in their spirit, in their mindset, and their thinking. So just because you say that this person is a bad person or whatever, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't. That's the first part of the Sermon on the Mount. That's your boy speaking. That's your Jesus. I don't call him that. I call him Yahshua, but that's your Jesus speaking. Appreciate you, Leroy. Much love to y'all. Right? That's your boy speaking. And you won't listen to your boy. Holla at your boy. He said, everybody up in there, if they poor in spirit, the kingdom still belongs to them. Next part, he said, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Here's some people telling you that they mourn. There's some stuff that happened to them in the system, and you won't give them no comfort. But you say you believe in your Bible, well, read your Bible, it'll bless you. Your Bible, your Jesus, he just said right here that if somebody's mourning, they should be comforted. Why won't you comfort anybody? Why you just say that we should ignore them, that they are victim mentality, and that's it? Excuse me. That's a straw man. Innate, that's a straw man. He said, don't cast pearls before swine. Sure. Don't cast pearls before swine. So are you saying because somebody's mourning that they're swine? You show me the scripture that somebody who's mourning should be treated like a pig, and then we'll go ahead and agree. Until then, blessed are those that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Right? You see what I'm saying? We got to be careful. I'm not saying you mean that. What I'm saying is you got to see how it comes off, especially with the right culture or kingdom attached. If somebody's mourning, blessed are they that mourns, for they shall be comforted. I didn't say blessed is the person that stays there or can't get out of it. And by the way, if you hear me talking about this, I don't want reparations from anybody. No white man, no person who thinks that I don't think like the white man, no person that thinks that I should have Eurocentric thought, right? No person that thinks that I have to go get a 9 to 5 to take care of my family, that I've got to become a slave to the system and all that. I don't want you to repair me or recut or reinstitute certain things in my life or those of my people or of my family. We're cool without you. We're going to do it for ourselves, right? We had already done it for ourselves. And then by trusting other people, we gave up our freedoms, and we should have always stayed the things that we were doing, which was also at the same time when we were doing those things, we were treating you correct, and we were teaching other people, and we were creating universities, and we were putting them in Spain and in Europe, all over the place. And we were putting, right, Spain is part of Europe now, but remember, Spain wasn't even a country back then. Like, we were doing those things. We were indigenous over here, building pyramids over here. There are more pyramids built by the Mississippi people, and I'm not talking about the state of Mississippi. I'm talking about the tribe of Mississippi. There's more pyramids in Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia than there are in Kemet, right? There's more of them over there than there is as far as the Aztecs, and y'all make everybody in that one area Aztecs as if they all agree on the same thing, right? You said exactly how you felt about me muting you. Well, once again, I haven't muted anybody. If you come on here and you come in here with bad intentions, or you come in here not making this a safe space, those who are have been trusted to make sure that they watch over the lives for us, they might mute you. Seems like they might have muted you again, right? But that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to make sure this is a safe space and run on this. So if your responsibility is bare minimum, treat people like human beings. If you can't do that, you might get muted. You said you just wanted to have us understand and have common ground, and then to ask, ask the hard questions. That's why I said you might not mean to do that. Hear what I'm saying, right? People get upset and they want you to always do everything with a smile and everything. And I try my best to, right? And I think that I'm very patient. I can be better with my patience, of course. I try to be a long sufferer and make sure that the things are there. But at the end of the day, like, sometimes a truth is just a truth, right? Like, don't cast pearls before swine. But if you said right before that, well, stop being a victim, or why is it that black people are the only people that talk about their race or talk about their color? Like, you got to comprehend that it was the Pope that started talking about color. The Pope was white when he started talking about color. Like, the Pope who started the Crusades even said, yo, go over there and take Israel away from those black and brown people, whether it be Muslims or Hebrews or Christians. There were black Christians, brown Christians, whatever. And he said, it doesn't matter. If they don't look like you, then they're not you. Now, you got to tell me if we started that, if we were obsessed with that or not. By the way, who teaches the schools? Who teaches schools? You think that black people learned about racism at home, or you think they learned about it at school? Uh-oh. You said right. So isn't race theory? Okay. See, once again, you're throwing it right. Critical race theory, white propaganda. No, critical race theory. First of all, I'm not somebody who subscribes to critical race theory. I think you keep bringing up something that I'm not part of, and that might be part of your problem. See, in here, I could care less about Republican, Democrat, white, black, critical race theory, et cetera, et cetera. I have to mention them because that's how other people think, but I'm trying to get you to come into something that's greater than all that foolishness. However, here's the answer for you. Critical race theory. There's a theory that's about race, and it's supposed to critique. So can you take critique, I guess, would be the question. Can you take somebody critiquing that maybe there are people that used to say that black people are terrible and there's a lot of stuff that's here, and they used to say just because of the color of our skin we were terrible? Can you take a critique? Can you say that somebody said that theory might need to be critiqued? That's what it is. It's critique of somebody's theory about my race. You see what I'm saying? That's what it is. It's critique of somebody who said that I'm bad just because I'm black, that I cannot articulate correctly, or that I cannot pontificate, that I cannot ponder, that my, even though I don't even opine, but when the times that I want to opine, my opinion should be make sure that it is clothed in ad hominem, initially, immensely, and irreversibly in some cases. In those cases, we should ensure that we don't do that. You said black was and still is a designation by certain people of Eurocentric belief system. Sure. Right? So if you go by that culture and that's your standard, then go by that standard, right? But there were people that called themselves slippery blacks over in Africa. Negro, by the way, is one of the most ancient West African terms to ever exist, way before Spanish people were taught what the word negro meant. Because remember, Spain was not even a country, so Spanish was not even a language, and it was something that was taught, and over time became something that was heavily influenced by the Moors. And before they were called Moors, the Carthaginians. Before they were called Carthaginians, you have the the Puts and the Kush, the Kemetic, the Kanav. Like, you have all these different people. So yeah, if you want to go by somebody else's standard, right? Ethiopian people who are blackened by the sun, which by the way was a compliment, because Greeks actually believed that because they were melanated themselves, right? We think Greek people are white people. No, Greek people were melanated themselves at the time, and they believed that what they learned from Africans, which they admit over and over again, even from the natural medicine things that we use today, they admit that they got that stuff from them. And they said as they got that stuff from them and they learned from them, they said they thought that they were smarter than them. Now, I don't believe this. I'm saying that that's what they said. They believed that the African was smarter than them because the African was more melanated. That's what they wrote out. So when we're talking about this black designation is a bad designation, is that because you're only thinking through the lens of Europe, or is it because you're thinking through the lens of your people? For us as our people, it's okay to be black. But I get it, on paper, if I go to trial, I should never be black on paper. Why? Because on paper, that's a fake person. And so that shows me that, hey, when it comes to the West, I need to stay away from the West, right? And I need to do what I need to do for my people, right? I know we're getting close to that time, so we take a couple more things on this, but I know people got to pack. I want to say farewell to some of our family real quick, and then make sure that I get my family get ready to go on the road, and hopefully stop by and say hello to somebody else real quick on the way to our next destination. Amen, Sister Beverly. Right. So these are things that are coming there, right? Like we don't know what these words mean. We're just talking. We're just talking without actual comprehension. You said, how can someone be bad because of a physical trait? Yeah, I agree with that. How can somebody be bad because of a physical trait? I'm not the one who put that in place, is what I'm saying. Even with slavery didn't used to be based on, oh, you're black or you're white. It was still wrong, by the way. Can we put that out there? See, and people don't want to hear me when I say that part. People don't give me that same energy. I don't get nobody saying, we appreciate you saying that, but then people will say, I appreciate you demeaning, or I don't appreciate you saying it's about black or white. No. Slavery existed before it was about black or white. And to say that there was never a white person, even though back then they didn't know what that was, you had to make up this thing called white person. White people didn't know they were white people until y'all started calling them that in the last few hundred years. They didn't know what that was, right? Like, there was no Greek person that was out there saying, I'm white. Like the Spartans, they didn't even look what you considered to be white, right? But they didn't know. So like, even when you talk about, oh, white people or this and that, like, you got to be careful. Europe just meant anything that belonged to Rome. You got to figure out more about the Greco-Roman philosophy than the white philosophy. People say white doesn't have a culture. Well, technically it doesn't, because white's not a real thing. It's not even a real color. There's no such person that's ever existed that's been white. Somebody made that up. See what I'm saying? That's what the argument is. You had to teach a whole group of people. That's why I say not only did black people have to be fleeced and finessed, white people had to be fleeced and finessed to believe they were white. What did you say? Until the ghettos are cleaned up and everyone is given equal opportunity and people lose the mindset, things will move at a snail's pace. I mean, I guess there's no such thing as equality, though. I think that's part of the problem that we're having. At first, I didn't know where you were going. That's why I had to slow down some. But it doesn't. But you have to figure this. There's no such thing as equality, and I don't want equality because there's no such thing. See, that's the problem. Like, you're trying to say all slavery is equal. All slavery is evil, but not all slavery is equal. Thank you, Holy Spirit, because I don't think I ever said it like that before. You're trying to be like, everybody was a slave. Not all slavery is equal, just like not all people are equal. You know why my wife and I work so well together? Because I realize my wife and I are not equal. She can do things I can't do, and I can do things she can't do. And when we found our lane, our marriage has been great. We're great to her. Hallelujah, right? Like, but you're trying to speak on something like there's no such thing as equality. My wife and I will never be equal to each other, not on our best days. We're not designed to do that, right? But you're trying to equate, slavery and chattel slavery. Everybody was a slave. No, not all slaveries are equal. There's some slaveries where they didn't get straw to make bricks. That's a different type of slavery than the one that says that you got to go to a 9 to 5 and you got to pay taxes. And you got to stay in debt. So you're having a different thing. The trailer park is a tough place to live, but it ain't the same place as the hood. The hood ain't the same place as the ghetto, and the ghetto ain't the same place as far as the homeless camp or or this and that or whatever. Like it's not all those things. Nevertheless, though, it's about that time. I thank y'all for being on today. I really appreciate you. Got to get on the road, and I know some family right here. They got to get on the road too. So we appreciate you today. Appreciate everybody who was here this weekend. At this point, we're doing super repetitive stuff because people either agree or they don't agree. That's cool, right? But we just put it out there. These are tools. You can study it for yourself, of course. And once you study it, you find some truth. Feel free to live by it so that you don't just hear it and without being a doer. You should be able to do both at the same time. And that's accountability, right? So we thank you. Thank you for the well wishes. Appreciate you. I see you. And feel free. We'll be on tonight on Kofi_42. So this is number 3. You gotta look for Kofi_42. But we'll be on tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. Those that have Black History 1, we'll be on it. We should be on at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time. I believe we'll be at a hotel or something by then. We're gonna go and visit one of our ministerial staff. Make sure that we say hello to them, and then try and get back over to the East Coast. So thank you guys again. We appreciate you all. Please take care. Be safe. We love every piece of everything that happened this weekend. I appreciate y'all. Y'all were great, strong, courageous, did so many great things and showed your heart, and praise y'all for you. So we thank you. We honor you guys. That's all I have. Please check out my wife, as always, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest. Not Bloom at Bloom and Flourish, not AND, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And she has many different tinctures that she has, as well as she's getting ready to start October. I don't know if it's this weekend. What is today? Might be this weekend, I guess, that we're supposed to be giving out, start doing our clothing drive, but our coat drive specifically. So if you want to help out with that, let us know, and we'd be more than happy to make sure that we get whatever to wherever. We're going to be doing a lot more locations this year. But thank you all. We appreciate you. We look forward to talking with you guys very soon. For the most part, I think that's it. Everything's back on track with classes. Look for recordings that should be coming out, especially those who have Sovereignty 1, Sovereignty 1. There will be no class this week. We're going to be doing DS11 forms, but those have Sovereignty 2. You should have another recording now for you to be able to have that, and then we should be on track with all these recording pretty much from this point on. So thank you all. We appreciate you. We honor you. We will be back on tomorrow here. In case you missed tonight, we'll be on here 8 a.m. Eastern New York time tomorrow, and if you want, to see bits and pieces of the convocation, we will have some of that stuff. Those who got baptized, those who preach, etc. We do have the stuff recorded. We got obviously hours and hours and hours of stuff. So give me some time. We got it from different angles and everything. So I'm gonna try and put it all nice and neat at every minister. I'm gonna try and have something specific, just a package just for you personally too. So give me a second, but we got some stuff that's great for you guys. But we thank you, we honor you, we appreciate you. We look forward to talking to you guys again. And hashtag finish strong. And this year is our year of living inside of that which we have pursued. And we're going to finish up strong in that so that we can start pressing and being strained. So thank you all. We appreciate you. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, just that you are loved, you are necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, if we miss you for this holy day season. Belated Shabbat Shalom. And take care. Thank you.